Good morning and Happy New Year. I'm trying to make a video real quick about Tiger Allah's second city, Dimming Stage Block 9, 1d8 plus 1 Alina Orbs. This one's going to be on Fighter, 3 Fighter feats. This is Chad Brown, and let us begin with, in that type of sense, with downhill alpine skiing. Competing in the downhill event requires skiers to have perfect and aerodynamically efficient tuck position to minimize drag and increase speed. That's the pista or the pistol thing. And then they go down, but I think they use lasers now type thing, and they get in their tuck. And they want to start with something at first level and go through their type thing, that type of sense, past all their flags to the end. So now, in that type of sense, if we come back here and we turn to PHB type thing, that type of thing, now that's page 22. That's downhill skiing. That's character level type thing there. And in that type of thing, whoops, I can do that from here type thing, because I'm on Zoom for that. Let's go here, then let's go down there type thing in that type of sense. That's experience and feats. That's your first level type thing, and that's your 20th level. So the beginning, your first flag is the first level type thing, and the 20 flags going that way type thing. In your character, it's going across 0 XP type thing in that type of sense, but I think it's going down on page 22. So it's going from first to 20 type thing, and that's what you want to plan your career through. And that is definitely, that's first level type thing, and that's 20th level type thing, and you want to start looking at the ability design, getting into your tuck for the whole thing type thing, for your whole profile of your character. And so the first one type thing in that type of sense, we've got one character feat type thing, and that means, and that's a feat there on page 22, PHB, Player's Handbook, page 22. And in that type of sense, that is your human racial, that's medium type thing, and the next bullet down, human baseline speed is 30 feet, and then one extra, there's the word extra type thing in that type of sense, you add that one to one type thing in that type of sense. And let's go here, and let's go to a calculator type thing, and that's 1 plus 1, that's going to be equal to 2. So from that type thing, that type of sense, you want to do that there type thing and realize that you're 2 feet now type thing, that type of sense. And it said 2 feet at first level type thing. So now you're at first level type thing, and that means. And from there type thing, you're going to look now at fighter on page 39, and that here was on page 13 type thing, that type of sense. That's page 39, that's at first level type thing, and you go across type thing, and that's another bonus feat. And that bonus type thing is another add-on to 2 type thing, which is 3. 2 plus 1 is 3. And then we'll start looking at some shots. See if I can pull out of this. I cannot. Okay, welcome back. Or haven't gone anywhere type thing in that type of sense. Now we had 2 feet type thing in that type of sense. We had 2 type thing there, plus 1, and that's 3 feet type thing in that type of sense, still at first level type thing. So now, kind of need to keep that going type thing, and that means, and when I'm working on this type thing, you'll see me, probably need to turn that around, you'll see me try to avoid a dot or a die that I set out type thing in that type of sense, because I'll get to telling myself type thing that, hey, that's not first level type thing in that type of sense, and then I did like a bunch of calculations in between it, so it must be like 10th or 11th level or 9th or 7th level type thing, and 7th level is on page 22 for 21,000 experience, and no one gained any 21,000 experience. It just felt like they gained 21,000 experience to explain where they were type thing in that type of sense. And that's not good. So that's feats type thing in that type of sense. And we got 1 in an underscore line, and 2 in underscore line, and 3 in underscore line type thing in that type of sense. Now from that type thing, and that means we've got 3 feet, and that's still at first level type thing in that type of sense. So from there type thing, and that means we're going to do a character type thing here, that's feet, and just trying to make this table open for it type thing, that's abilities type thing in that type of sense. And that's page 8 type thing, and page 9. Underneath the table, there's a table, then you go down for no apparent reason, that's abilities on page 8, and that's strength, STR, and dexterity type thing in that type of sense. You've got 20 points at the beginning type thing in that type of sense, and you're going to pay for dexterity type thing. You're like, well, I don't remember all the abilities type thing. That's okay. You know, because you got, that's page 318 type thing in your player's handbook type thing in that type of sense. That's 316, 317, and that's 1, that's strength type thing in that type of sense, and then 2, that's dexterity, 3, that's constitution, 4, that's intelligence, 5, that's wisdom, and 6, that's charisma type thing. And they won't, I think once you get used to doing these types of things in that type of sense, you'll try to avoid making it more against yourself type thing. And because that really doesn't help in that type of sense of design type thing in that type of sense. So we're going to take on dexterity type thing in that type of sense, and it's minus 5 points type thing in that means, and that's going to be 15 points. And I didn't put that point scale up type thing in that type of sense to double check that type thing in that means. I think I can type thing in that type of sense. Let's go here, and then let's go here. Now I usually just generally just rename these things type thing in that type of sense from that, and then I'm going to go into my Explorer, and then I'm going to go into XP, and I usually don't have to do this type thing. Whoops, I don't even want XP, I want abilities type thing. Let's see here. Great, I don't know what I called it type thing. I might have called it points or something like that. Yeah, that's good. And that's a scorecard type thing there. And then we're going to click here into a type thing in that type of sense. And then from there, that's here. And that's a 14 type thing score. And it's written backwards for 5 points type thing in that type of sense. And so you'll look at that type thing. And if you look in that, the similarity type thing to the PHB type thing in that type of sense with an Ansoff matrix, you'll start getting the reason why these numbers can get confusing type thing. And it's not that complicated, but you really have to keep an open mind. See, that's 1 column and 2 column type thing in that type of sense. So that's 1 and 2 type thing in that type of thing. And above that was score and modifier, but not in the other one type thing in that type of sense. It's at score and points type thing in that type of sense. And you'll start thinking that there's 3 separate categories in there type thing in that type of sense for A, B, and C. 14 score for 5 points for 2 plus 2 modifier type thing in that type of sense. So if you get off on that type thing in that type of sense, you'll start moving things around, and then I'm like, well, there can't be a 14 for 14 for 5 points. It's got to be for 14 or 24 or 34 type thing in that type of sense, and then it costs 5, and it's got a 14 modifier and things of that nature type thing in that type of sense, and then it's not in balance anymore. So these categories type thing in that type of sense make it, if you see it on one sheet type thing that's like form 466 type thing in that type of sense, and you're like, that scored a modifier, and somebody else is like on 573 it scored a points type thing in that type of thing, you're like, what? Yeah. And points and modifiers type thing in that type of sense. Points is 5 points with a 14, and it's a 2 modifier type thing, so it's 5 over 2, but an 18 score is like 17 points over a plus 4 modifier type thing in that type of sense. So they're not the same type thing in that type of sense. They're different things. And that 17 score, that 17 points was an 18 score, which is another confused thing type thing in that type of sense. So here again, that's an 18 ability, dexterity 18, and that's a 17 points type thing to pay for that 18. It's 1 off type thing in that type of sense, and that's got a plus 4 modifier on it type thing. Not listed. So with that type thing in that type of sense, there's an extreme chance type thing in that type of sense that things in context could be its own contextual Dagobah Yoda system type thing, and just a bog of awesomeness type thing in that means. So now, that's 5 points. That's a 14 type thing in that type of sense. Now, you did that type thing in that type of sense, and you paid 5 points, you got 15 remaining, and you should go to modifier, and now we've got another oddity or Chesnier or something like that in that type of sense. And that's 16 type thing in that type of sense. That's elf racial traits, and plus 2 dexterity type thing in that type of sense. And immediately you read that page 16 type thing in that type of sense, and that's plus 2. So now that's 14 plus 2 type thing in that type of sense, and that's 16. Now you have a 16 dex type thing in that type of sense. We haven't looked at any of the other ability scores. Now you go back to page 8 type thing, and a 16 to 17 is what it says in that line type thing in that type of sense. So 16 to 17 in that type of thing, then you just go straight down. There's nothing across from it type thing in that type of sense. 16 to 17, and then over to the plus 3, and that goes up to the word modifier. So plus 3 up to the word modifier type thing in that type of sense. So if you have a dexterity of 16 type thing in that type of thing, then you have a modifier of plus 3. And that's really complicated type thing in that type of means. And that's plus 3 type thing in that type of sense. So that's 16 and plus 3. For other verifications type thing, like a social security number or something like that, you'll be using the 16. And in other calculations, you won't use the 16. That's the last time you mention it, like a movie with Ivy League degrees type thing, that type of sense. Everything else is work production afterwards, which is that plus 3 modifier type thing. You'll never really mention that thing again other than certain qualifiers. And it's really, really easy to start swapping those two together type thing in that type of sense and making a sea of Dirac. So it's that's an ability score type thing in that type of sense. And let's see here. Can't go down on that. Let's close that here. And that's control and Q to get out of here. So control, and that's a control key, and Q, and that should be there, and that should close that out there. Of course, I didn't do that right. I double hit it. That's okay there. There's from that, and that's from current slide. Okay, first feat is going to be point blank. Now that was 3 feet, so I think in that type of sense. That's here. That's a character feat. And that's on page 22. It's a human feat. And that is on page 13. And that's page 39. That's a fighter feat. Okay, it's 3 of them there. Had a dex of 14 plus 2 racial, that's 16. Now in that type of sense, that is going over to point blank type thing, that type of thing, on page 98. And that's point blank shot. And so here, that is going to be the first feat, point blank shot. And in that type of thing, plus 1 on attack and damage rolls, type thing, that type of sense. Okay, this one is going to be a little bit weird, but homework wise, it really isn't. Binary tree, hunt for Red October, mini subs to fit to anything or any program from the start of this character build, and right shot, right plan, right dimming type thing, that type of sense. We will get back to that type thing that means. This is in there type thing, this is point blank, and that's a ear, and that's an attack, and that's damage type thing in that type of sense. And that's plus 1. And so from those 2 plus 1s type thing, it must mean the same thing. So this is going to be tricky. That's A. And that is in that type of thing. That's B in that means. Paragraph indent type thing in that type of sense. That's 1. And then A, then B, then B1 and 2 type thing. And that means like that. Now in that, we're going to write attack. And in that same rule, that's the damage type thing in that type of sense. They're really not the same level type thing. They kind of are. So now, in that type thing, this is really difficult type thing in that type of sense. Its math is beyond imagination. That's a ranged weapon. That's a D20. So we grab a D20. And then that's a 20. If I can get it to tilt right here. Might not. I go here, in that type of thing there. I didn't make a bunch of pluses type thing, and I should have. That's a base attack bonus type thing in that type of sense from fighter. And I put the D20 down. And that's page 39. And that's a +1. So I've got a d20 that I started there, and I put a 1 next to it type thing. Like so there. And with a dex modifier type thing of +3. This is returned back to page 135. Incidentally, if you ever need a battle grid in there type thing in that type of sense, you should use one of the pages like 153 or something like that, and there's 5-foot squares on them type thing in that type of sense. Little unit map type thing, but you know, d20. So that's a die with 20 sides on it type thing in that type of sense. That's a d20, and I put that up there type thing in that type of sense. And that's a base attack bonus of 1 type thing in that type of sense. And that's we're shooting a bow, so we need to use a range attack roll. That's d20 plus base plus dexterity modifier. Now dex type thing in that type of sense was confusing. Again, type thing in that type of thing. In that that's a row type thing in that type of sense. So we need 2 of these type thing in that type of sense, and 1 of these. So now in that, oh hey, dropped it like that. 16 in that type of thing. That's a 16, and then that's a 17 type thing in that type of sense. And along that going to the east type thing is going down. That's the south direction. Going east is over to the +3. And so in that type of thing, I'm going to put the 3 next to the 17 type thing in that type of sense. That's actually the 3 going north from 3 type thing. It's the word modifier. So it's a 3 modifier. So you put the 3 modifier with that equation type thing there, type thing in that type of sense. So 24. And that's how that works. It's kind of time-consumingly confusing type thing, but I'm pretty sure all of you alphas and betas out there type thing, alphas and gammas, Incredible Hulking and not Incredible Hulk, because I think he was a scientist type thing, as Bruce Banner, will eventually get that. Yeah. So in that type of thing, that's d20 plus base attack bonus 1 plus dex modifier. That's 3, so that's 24 type thing in that type of sense. Now on page 117 type thing, you want to go back to human type thing, because there's a lot of big creatures in AD&D, making a person think that humans are small. And that's human racial traits on page 13, and that's medium. So you use the word medium type thing as, in that type of sense, medium damage type thing in that type of sense. So page 117, there's cost, damage small, damage medium. I think if you go to 114 or something like that, yeah, they'll say it type thing. That's 114. Damage columns are given a damage dealt by the weapon on successful hit. Column labeled damage S is for small weapons such as those typically wielded by a gnome or halfling. Column labeled damage M is for medium weapons type thing. So it's weapon qualities. There's an indent that says what kind, and then another indent that says the number, and then a better, and then when selecting cost, damage, the damage gives the column type thing, and then the column, the weapon, small weapons, halfling, the column labeled damage M. So that's medium damage type thing in that type of sense. It's pretty scary type thing in that type of sense. Damage M, short bow, longbow type thing, longbow composite, we haven't gotten into that, so just regular longbow, D8 type thing in that type of sense. That's an 8-sided die, which looks exactly like a 20-sided die type thing in that type of sense. And in that type of thing, you put that on there like that in that type of sense, and that's your damage. Your damage is not equivalent to your attack. Your dex mod doesn't go in your damage type thing in that type of thing. Strength can in that type of thing, but that's at cost. And in that type of thing, if you read that, strength composite on page 119, that's like 100 gold pieces per strength modifier that's in there type thing in that type of sense, plus the bow, plus crafting time type thing, which eventually can be made type thing in that type of sense, but that's in silver type thing. And it's silver to gold base type thing in that type of sense, and that's the right thing to do. Some DMs don't allow for your character to have a Fantasia background. So if you did chores at 14 and you hit the road at 18, that's 4 years of chores. And maybe that's not enough for experience, but I think that craft check doesn't cost experience type thing. I think it just costs time and silver pieces type thing going to gold. So you might have been able to fashion your hunting bow type thing in that type of sense. But a lot of DMs don't like that. Unless it's real game time, you have no time. So in that type of thing, in that type of sense, that's a binary tree type thing. If you turn it on its side, you might see more of it type thing in that type of sense. And then here, type thing that means, that's here, that's 1, and here, that's 2 type thing for second. So 1 and 2, attack, and it just says attack for 1. And the other one's some mystery thing type thing in that type of sense. But here, for some reason, no one grabs a uniform type thing in that type of sense, and uniform distribution, 1 for one and 1 for the other. So they're both one shots, taking that type of sense. So attack was +1, so that's a D21 type thing, and that's got +1 to it, taking that type of sense. And that's pretty simple. And that's 1 here. You add another 1 up to the top of that, and your damage is 1 type thing. Bring that to 9 and that to 25, I think. So that's 25 over 9. So they're equivalent type thing in that type of sense. So they're two different things type thing in that type of sense. First you hit them, and then you find out how much penetration type thing in that type of sense. So you gotta keep that kind of rolling type thing. Otherwise, it doesn't really work. Feats are kind of like rune slots type thing on a weapon or something like that. And they're like, as soon as I just have enough stats type thing, without the runes, I automatically qualify for them type thing in that type of sense. Oh no, you gotta place some runes. And then once you place a rune type thing in that type of sense, you still have the same amount of spots as you started with type thing in that means. Yeah, that's so, and they're not level dependent type thing in that type of sense, although you can get more of them at great cost type thing, and also at great restriction type thing in that type of sense. But all those things needed to be said. Okay, now, so that was point blank shot type thing in that means type thing in that type of sense. And that's point blank shot. That's a TV I keep stepping over type thing. I think I'm going to sell it type thing in that type of means because I got a new TV, but I will get back to people on that. Yeah. And that's point blank shot type, I don't know what the shipping cost is on that. Point blank shot type thing in that type of sense is PHP 98, and you get a +1 bonus on attack, and in the word and, so that's 1, and you could count the and or and as part of the binary type thing in that type of sense. So attack, damage, damage D20, D8, D20, D8, two options type thing in that type of sense, both get +1. So then you still have to do the rest of the formulas like your dex mod and base attack bonus in your attack. It's pretty complicated. It's fairly complicated. Okay, that's back on page 135, type thing in that type of sense. And that's a range attack roll because it's a longbow, D20, +1, plus base attack bonus 1, plus dexterity modifier, type thing in that type of sense. So in that type of thing, we had dexterity modifier, the base attack bonus from page 39 of fighter, type thing in that type of sense. And that is also complicated type thing that means because it is on first level, and that's +1 type thing in that type of sense, plus your feat of 1 type thing in that type of sense from point blank type thing in that type of thing, which is a very mind enthralling type thing there. And that's on page 98, and that's +1 type thing in that type of sense. So you can really get going on these type thing in that type of sense. That's page 39. That was +1. It's a D20 system, so you get a roll of a D20 type thing in that type of sense. Then you're at page 8 with this dex modifier type thing of +3, and that's also page 39 was the base fighter one. Page 98 was the point blank one type thing, and so that's page 98 type thing, and that's +1 type thing in that type of sense. That's +1 BAB on 39, and that's +1 point blank feet on 98, and both of those are the same ones type thing in that type of sense. So all that's going into your attack type thing in that type of sense. And on damage, you just got a roll of D8 type thing in that type of sense, and page 98 type thing for damage, and that's +1. Oops. And a roll of D8 type thing was page 117. So 117 over 98 type thing, so that was D8 and +1 type thing in that type of sense, or D8 +1. Pretty, that's why I got the Scrabble set, because it's like signing up those letters type thing. You can really make something not be in an association type thing in that type of sense. And much like a fill in the blank type thing, it's the same thing. So now that was a D20 type thing in that type of sense, and that's a D20 type thing, check. And then we've got a BAB type thing in that type of sense, and that's 1. And then from that, that's a dex mod of 3 type thing in that type of sense. And the BAB was on page 39, and the feat for point blank is on 9-8 type thing in that type of sense. So that's point blank, and that's +1 on that type thing in that type of sense. So that's 1 plus 3 plus 1 type thing, and that's 1 plus 3 plus, so that's a BAB of 1, sorry there, that's a BAB of 1 plus 3 dex type thing plus 1 from point blank type thing, and that's 5, and a D20 type thing in that type of sense. It's pretty complicated math. I mean, it's fairly complicated, but in that type of sense, you do have, it's easy to get off in that type of thing, and dentists can redo the wrong side of your mouth type thing in that type of sense. So, kind of have to keep some things kind of straight. Unless both sides need a root canal or something like that. Just one. So, point blank, and then that's precise type thing in that type of sense. You're skilled at timing and aiming range attacks. That's precise shot type thing in that type of sense. So now we do that type thing, and then a little pictogram type thing in that type of sense. That's and that's attack, and that's damage type thing in that type of sense. I guess you can use an ampersand. And that's damage +1, it's attack +1, and then write that out. Precise shot type thing in that type of sense is you can shoot or throw a ranged weapon. Oops, let me not do that here because I specifically went to this type thing so that I can handle that. That's precise, that you can shoot or throw a ranged weapon at an opponent engaged in melee without taking the standard -4 penalty on your attack roll type thing. So if that's back in there on page like 150s and things like that type thing in that type of sense, or 140s type thing, I can get figurines. See how close that is on 153 type thing in that type of sense? You would take a -4 penalty to that type thing. I really shouldn't use a red die for that type thing, and the eagerness of making this always red is equal to something bad. But that would take a -4 to it, so then you would take 20, that was 25, and then the minus symbol type thing, and not the one with the 2 dots on top of it type thing, the minus symbol. So it's 25 -4 type thing, that type of sense, and that's, whoops, that's 25, that's 25 minus 2, 1, that's equal to 4 difference type thing in that type of sense. And so that's 2, 5 over 2, 1 type thing in that type of sense. 2's cross out, it's 5 over 1, and this is your new level type thing there on the 1 type thing. So that's what that shot did. It took 4 off of that type thing in that type of sense. And that's 5 minus 1 type thing, and that's 4. So it took 4 off on that precise shot type thing in that type of sense, which it didn't do. You can shoot or throw ranged weapons at an opponent engaged in melee without taking the standard -4 penalty on your attack roll. So in that type of sense, that's -4 here type thing, along with the +1 attack and +1 damage type thing in that type of sense. So it kind of sets your shot ahead backwards. So now that's their type thing, that's precise shot, and that's 2 feet on the fighter. Now on the third one, this one you have to have point blank shot type thing, and we did, so that's a check. And on this one type thing, it has some prerequisite on point blank shot type thing in that type of sense, which sounds like precise shot type thing in that type of sense. That's size and oink type thing in that type of sense, and those are both the same too type thing in that type of sense. So that's precise, and that's TNOIP type thing in that type of sense. Whoops, POINT type thing. So now in that type thing, that's P over P, and so they're both the same. That's point blank has an O, and this is an R, so that's O over R, and then this is I, and then that's over E type thing, so that's oi and re type thing, and point and precise type thing in that type of sense. They are not the same word. So in that type of thing, in that type of sense, that is not enough patience to really do that. I'm just kind of just Slumdog Millionaire, you know, it's like that whole deck together type thing. And those weren't the same cards type thing. They had a little bit of everything in there. But hey, you know, it worked in Hands of Fate type thing in that type of sense. Turnip type thing. It's a serious card. And so with that, that is, if I've said their name, from Zombie Orpheus, right, type thing in that type of sense. Their production company is under Zombie Orpheus, even though they do like a bunch of different titles type thing, I think. So that's great on that. That's point precise type thing. Now, in that, still looking at a first level character, the 1. And in that, that's on page 99, that's rapid shot. Dex 13 type thing, we have a Dex 16 on our character type thing in that type of sense. So check there. So now, in that type of thing, we write down a prerequisites type thing here. In that type thing, Dex 13. And we had underscore a 16 type thing in that type of sense, so that's a check. And in that type of thing, point blank shot type thing in that type of sense, and we have the point blank shot. It was our first feat, and that's also a check type thing in that type of sense. So we write in, we have another slot to fill in there type thing, and that's rapid shot type thing, and that means. And the rapid shot type thing says you can get 1 extra attack type thing in a round, so we're at first level, so we have 1 attack. and it said an extra attack, so we get another attack type thing for 2 attacks. Now in that type of thing, with a ranged weapon, which we do, it's a longbow, the attack is at your highest base attack bonus type thing, which is at +1 for us right now. I'm not counting modifiers, but each attack you make in that round, the extra one and the normal ones takes a -2. Now this one, the extra one, that takes a -2 penalty, and the normal one, that takes a -2 penalty. So D20 -2 type thing in that type of sense. Actually, D20 +1 -2, and D20 +1 -2. Now we go back to our highest attack bonus type thing in that type of sense, and that's on page 39. Once again. So now on page 39, first level, base attack bonus is our highest base attack bonus. So it said highest type thing in that type of sense, and then I'm going to put a vertical line in between that. Base attack bonus type thing in that type of sense. Our highest base attack bonus is at first level type thing, which is +1 type thing in that type of sense. So we're at first level type thing, and our base attack bonus is +1. And we still in a D20 system, so we turn back to the back of the book type thing in that type of sense. And there it is, at the bottom center type thing, it's a D20 system on that type thing in that type of sense. So anytime you see something naked without it, you're like, where's my roll? Yeah. Unless it's really, really something unusual type thing, you're going to have a roll. Your roll is a D20 type thing, +1 type thing, -2. Yeah. Pretty straightforward. Unless you are not a person who can't stand linear things type thing, then it's not straightforward. It's wrong. Yeah. But in that type of thing, so now 2 attacks at +2 type thing in that type of sense, back to 135, or at, -1. But you still have to add your dexterity modifier in there type thing in that type of sense, so D20 +2, and you have to add your, if in 30 feet for point blank shot, another +1 to attack type thing. So that's +3, +1, that's 1, that's 2, so it's D20 +3 on both shots. So that's what you would write in your character type thing in that type of sense. And that's pretty cool. That is way cool type thing in that type of sense. Now we've created a first level fighter type thing, who now has, do I have 2 green ones type thing in that type of sense? Let's see, we're kind of fugly type thing. Are these the same color? They are indeed the same color type thing in that type of sense. So yeah, they don't look that deep type thing in that type of sense. But let's see here. Ooh, just rolled a 20. And so in that type, they got to confirm type thing in that type of sense. That's 20 and 20 type thing in that type of thing. All the bipolarism of rolling two D20s at the same time, 20 and 1. But in that type of thing, in that type of sense, seems destined somehow. In that type of thing, we have the damage there, type thing in that type of sense. In our hit, we know these are +3s, type thing in that type of sense. In total, we can take this 4 away here. And these are always going to be +3 to hit on both shots, type thing in that type of sense. So let's go ahead and leave that in as a model. Let me get this here. And I'm not completely with the same set all the way throughout type thing there. And that's D20 type thing in that type of sense. And that's 20 and 20. You'll get there. Yeah. And D20 +3s. And now, since you have 2 attacks, you potentially have 2 hits type thing in that type of sense. I like the bars type thing in that type of sense, but occasionally they slow me down. Yeah. So that's D8 +1 and D8 +1. Now in that type of thing, I'm pretty sure point blank says that type thing in that type of sense, but I don't really, did not read through it type thing. And that type of thing, that's here. That's +1 bonus on attack and damage rolls. Now we're up to the word with ranged weapons, that's a longbow, at ranges of up to 30 feet. So you have to be within 30 feet type thing in that type of sense. And if you turn back to page 151 or 153 type thing, that's 1 square type thing, so that's 5 in that type of thing. So that's 6 squares. So now that's 30 feet. 30 feet divided by 5 foot per square. And that's going to equal the amount of squares left over type thing in that type of sense. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 squares type thing. That's the range for point blank. The range of the longbow actually goes on for another 70 feet beyond that type thing in that type of sense, because it's 100 feet minus 30 feet type thing in that type of sense. And I'm pretty sure I typed that in wrong. That's 100 minus 30 type thing, and that's 70 feet. Some with memory type thing in that type of sense are going to have a different memory. And now that's page 117. That's longbow. That's a ranged weapon type thing in that type of sense. 75, D6, D8 for medium times 300 feet type thing in that type of sense. The feet type thing in that type of sense, point blank point blank type thing in that type of sense was 30. The actual longbow is 100 type thing in that type of sense, and that's +1 to attack, and that's +1 to damage type thing. After that, you lose the benefit of it type thing for the next 70 feet type thing in that type of sense. So in that type of thing, that still is a d20 plus 3 and a d20 plus 3, d8 plus 1 and d8 plus 1 in damage, unless a composite bow, but I don't think we have to worry about that for right now. So now that we have that type thing in that type of sense, is there any other notes that I have type thing for that? I went over rapid shot type thing in that type of sense, and from that type thing, that's right there. And the extra one type thing, they all take -2. One would want to make them cumulative type thing in that type of sense with a sigma or epsilon type thing in that type of sense. Yeah. But I don't think that's what that said type thing. It immediately defined the extra one, said the extra one type thing was -2 type thing and not -2 type thing. And it said only put a -2 on it type thing, and it said the normal one type thing without counting the extra one was also just a -2. Yeah. And so with counting the one from the extra, that's -2 minus the -2 for the normal one, taking that type of sense, which is -4. But it only told the normal one to be assigned a -2, I think, in that type of sense. So that's rapid shot type thing, and the extra one and the normal ones takes a -2 penalty type thing in that type of sense. Yeah, they're just associated with -2. They take a -2. So each time you take an attack, they take a -2 sigma cumulative type thing in that type of sense power series. That's great. Yeah. So both of them are automatically -4 and -4 through calculation type thing in that type of sense. That's wrong. That's wrong. I think what they're saying is when they say take, they equal each individually. That's take, and that's equal a -2 and a -2 type thing in that type of sense. And then normal and extra type thing, or extra and normal type thing. The extra one is going to equal -2, and the normal one is going to have a -2 on it type thing in that type of sense. Could be reading that wrong type thing in that type of sense, but each attack you make in the round, the extra one, each attack type thing, each attack, an attack is going to have a -2 on it type thing in that type of sense. Wow. And they didn't leave an example type thing in that type of sense, but I don't think it was that crazy as much as crazy that just went into that pretty much. So now, there's still a first level fighter type thing. You have character feat, human feat, fighter feat, point blank, precise, rapid shot type thing in that type of sense, through fighter on page 39 type thing. And in that type of thing, that is the fighter type thing on page 39, which it isn't. And the ranger type thing in that type of sense is faster than that. So now, in that type of thing, let's see, the ranger. First favorite enemy, track and wild empathy. Second one's combat style, 0, 3, 3, 2, 2. Second type thing. And we are second type thing. We're first. So we do half the time. So at another 1,000 experience, the ranger could do what we're doing type thing in that type of sense. Yeah. And so some cross-out units, it's not complicated, but the war of it is. So in that type of thing, that's 30 feet type thing in that type of sense. Divided by, type thing in that type of sense, 5 feet per square, type thing in that type of thing. So now, in that type of thing, that's 5 feet, that's 30 feet, type thing in that type of sense, times 1/5 type thing, and square over feet. Feet crosses out from both of these type thing. This is feet times 1/feet, type thing in that type of sense. I know it can't separate a number in front of the feet, type thing in that type of sense, away from that type thing, and that means that's impossible. The feet cross out type thing, you 30/5 square type thing in that type of sense. So now in that type of thing, that's 30. Now that funny dot thing over there type thing in that type of sense, divided by 5 type thing, 6 squares. So now that's 6 squares. Really still in that type of sense, not viable. Yeah. So now in that, let me go get that thing there type thing in that type of sense, and let's do a little example type thing and see if we can put together a dimming chart. Okay. I got a couple pieces, not a ton of pieces, type thing in that type of sense. And so here, and that's here. Now that's in that. It's got 5 foot per square on the top, type thing in that type of sense. And if you take this out, you can put it in a dungeon. If you use the other side of it, type thing, it's blank. There's nothing on it, type thing in that type of sense. And that's what we're going to do here, type thing there. And then now you can look at that blank square, type thing in that type of sense. And you can put the 2 goblins on it, type thing. And that's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, type thing in that type of sense. And you can put the elf there, type thing, in that means. And there you go. I should probably use mile markers, type thing, or pips. We got these dot ones here. That's 1, that's 2, that's 3, that's 4. We said 5 squares. 5 and 6. So now, in that type of thing, where am I here? That's what I thought. Yeah. So in that type of thing, that's 1, and that's 3 and 4, and I think you count the square that they're in. That's 5, and that's 2. You know, I really should let that. Okay, and that's 2, and that's 6, type thing in that type of sense. And boom, yeah. So now that's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, type thing in that type of sense. Whoops. So pretty complicated in that type of means, once again. And so in that means, from there, we're going to take that type thing, and then we're going to roll, type thing in that type of sense. We're going to leave our markers here as d20 plus 3s, type thing in that means, so I can remember that, right? And then they probably go before me, type thing in that type of sense, so I'm going to skip rolling initiative. And so I'm going to roll here, type thing. I need my cup. Cups, and yes. Which one is a better roll? We'll just go with that. Okay. Nah, it's a 17 and a 15, type thing in that type of sense. So let's say first round, that was a 17 and a 15, that's plus 3 and plus 3. So it's 20 and 18, type thing in that type of sense. Second round, oh, we didn't do the arrows, type thing. And in that type of thing, that's rapid shot at first level, type thing. We're still first, page 22, type thing. That's first level, and that's 0 experience going east, which east is going down. That's south and east, type thing at the same time. That's first, and that's east and over to 0 experience, type thing with the first feat, with our human feat and character feat and fighter feat, type thing in that type of sense. And that's on page first, and that's going east, type thing in that type of sense. If a compass is not inverted to somebody, type thing, that's north, that's south, that's east, and then that's west, type thing in that type of sense, in a weather vane sense. Yeah. So we're going along that road, type thing in that type of sense, and that's east. And that's going east on that, type thing in that means. So now, that's 17 and 15, type thing in that type of sense. And so the first and second shot were 17 and 15, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20, type thing in that type of thing. Now, we haven't rolled damage yet, type thing in that type of sense yet. So that's the second round. We have rapid shots, so we have a normal one and an extra one every round, type thing in that type of thing. Oops. Oh man. Let me put it back in the cup, type thing. My hands stick a little bit, type thing in that type of sense. And 20. Alright. So now that's a 20 and a 5, type thing in that type of sense. And once again, that's what's here. Normal damage is the one listed on page 117. And that was a D8. And the critical one, you have to fill in, type thing, and that's 3D8. But you have to confirm it, type thing in that type of sense. The normal one, now it's going to go through a grade type thing in that type of sense beforehand. That's your critical, and then that's your normal type thing, and it's going to go from the next one down type thing. So if it doesn't confirm critical, it's on critical, the next one down is normal, and you do a D8. So now, you could have had 24, but you do 8 in that type of sense, even though you rolled a 20 type thing. What? I got rid of 16. Now, one of these confirm, or one of these is a 20 type thing. It's 20 and 5, the 5's in this. And 15, that's their armor class. Exactly. Alright. So that's a critical type thing in that type of sense. That's times 3. So it's 20 and a 5 type thing. And that's times 3 type thing in that type of sense. Boom. Boom. Such odds. Let's see. Double 13s type thing in that type of sense. Then the third round is 13 and 13 plus 3 on each one. And that's 16 type thing and 16 type thing in that type of sense. So it's 16, that's 8 here type thing in that type of sense. Oops. And in that type of thing, how do I want to do this? I might start a second sheet. No, I'm going to keep this sheet. So that's 20 and 18 here, and that's 20 with a 15 plus 3. Keep your modifier through it type thing. So it's a 15 and an 18 type thing to confirm and a 20. And this is 5, and this is 8, and then this is 13 and 13. 16 and 16 result type thing in that type of sense. And those would be hits. And 9 and 11 type thing. That's 4. That's 9 and 11. That's 12. And that's 14 type thing. Both of those are misses type thing. So it's 12 and 14, 9 and 11. And in that type of thing. 20 and a 1. Hopefully the bowstring doesn't snap type thing in that type of sense. So that's a 20 and a 1 type thing that means. And from that type thing, confirm. Ooh, 4. No. Just a normal hit type thing in that type of sense. And that's normal. There, type thing in that type of sense. And let's see. So it's 20 and then a 4 plus 3, that's 7 type thing. Some DMs have you re-roll that 1 type thing to see how bad it is. 4 plus 3 modifier is 7. Should be fine, but that could not be good. Yeah. So that's a normal hit type thing in that type of sense. And let's see here, 20 and a 1. That's 5. And normal arrows type thing in that type of thing. Where are we here? Does say it type thing. That's page 114. That's weapon qualities over east, and then times range increment weight time special weapon descriptions arrows. An arrow type thing in that type of sense uses melee in that type of thing. Like now, you don't put the arrow on the bow. You just take the arrow and just stab somebody with it without using the bow type thing in that type of sense. That makes it a melee weapon type thing. If you put it on the bow on page 118 type thing and then shoot it, that also makes it a melee weapon type thing. Oh no, that makes it ranged, and then just the arrow tip type thing in that type of sense is melee, just like lawn darting on the ground without shooting it on the bow type thing. So now in that you put it in between your hands type thing, like Legolas type thing there, and then you use it and you go like that type thing in that like that, and that's range type thing because you're pulling back and going down type thing. That's at a range of 20 squares type thing in that type of sense. It's 1 square. It's 1 square type thing in that type of thing. Now you're gonna put it on the bow type thing in that type of sense, and then you're gonna shoot it type thing 20 squares or 6 squares type thing. So that's 1 over 6 type thing in that type of sense. And then that one's range, and that one's melee type thing. So you do whatever it says to do melee 2 type thing on the 1. And it says a -4 penalty. An arrow used as a melee weapon is treated as a light improvised weapon, -4 penalty on attack rolls, and deals a damage as a dagger of its size times 4. So a dagger is D4 type thing times 2. And in that type of thing, the range weapon's a D8 type thing in that type of sense times 3 type thing in that type of sense. So they're different type thing, and that means page 116 type thing. That's table 7.5, gauntlet, unarmed, dagger, 2 gold piece, D3, D4, 19 to 20 times 2 type thing, range 10 feet, and then 90 more feet to it type thing in that type of sense makes a longbow range weapon type thing in that type of sense. So you have to kind of get used to writing that type thing. That's range weapons type thing, and that's a longbow on top type thing in that type of sense. Let you know what type of weapon it is. So, okay, now in that type of thing, that's 5. I probably should have wrote on that. And that's and that's 13 and 16 type thing in that type of sense. And that's 13 and 16. That's 6. That's 13 and 16. And that's plus 3 modifier to it. It says 16 plus 3 there. It's 19 type thing. So in that type of thing, right underneath that weapon description, -4. Dagger size times 2. Arrows come in a leather quiver that holds 20 arrows type thing in that type of sense. So we have got the archer type thing if he's there, and I think he's got a quiver on his back type thing in that type of sense. And there is a quiver, and you can see that type thing, and that's here. And if you go into the book on page 118 type thing in that type of sense, arrows and the quiver type thing in that type of sense, it's holding case. Now, that case might not have a lot of science to it type thing. It might be like a water skin type thing and just throws the arrows in it type thing in that type of sense. It's like a leather skin or hide of a cow or sheep, like sheep stomach type thing, and they just let it dry out type thing in a little bit of a treatment, and then kind of like stapled, stitched it together type thing in a real simple thing, and then threw some arrows in it. But gets the job done. And then pull a little strap through it or something like that, and some type of thing there, and then put it on your shoulder type thing, and kind of buckle it like a brittle thing in that type of sense, like a horse tackle type thing, that, and then just put that around your shoulder, bit and brickle type thing in that type of sense, and you have a quiver, sort of one that could slide, or unless you pull it like a gun holster type thing in that type of sense. I'm not sure how adequate or inadequate those things got. And they probably got in a pretty good fasten in there. So in that type of thing, in that type of sense, and barding type thing. I'm not sure if there's a picture of one. Try page 130, and some interesting stuff there. And page 127, some also interesting stuff there. But some history type thing in that type of sense. Much like a pouch or a belt buckle type thing in that type of sense. And you just do that like a gun holster at a side around your arm thing, and then tighten that baby in there. It's like, so that's good stuff. Okay, 13 and 16 taking that type of sense. And 17 and 6. So it's a 7-shot type thing with 6 and 17. And in that type of thing. 6 and 17 type thing in that type of sense. This was 16 and 19. And this is 9 and a 20, but it's not a natural 20. I had to add something to it to make it a 20 type thing in that type of sense. This also is a perplexing thing, but it's you get used to it type thing. See, the first box type thing and a flashcard type thing in that type of sense was a 17. That's automatically a natural 20 type thing, and it isn't. Now that's 3 added on in there to the second box type thing in that type of sense. That's 2 in the first box, and that made the result in 20 type thing. But even though we are looking at the result, we also are looking at the first box, which had a 17, which means it's not a natural 20 type thing. Even though you added something to it type thing, it has to come up 20 on the die type thing in that type of sense. That's right. So you'll get kind of used to it type thing in that type of sense type thing. So this is good stuff to run into. And 11 and 6 type thing in that type of sense. And that's 14 and 9. And in that type of thing, do I have it on me type thing? I don't think I do. I should. There's a monster manual type thing. And we're not looking at flat-footed conditions or anything like that right now. We're going to turn into the monster manual type thing, which has cornucopia or something, a plethora or something like that. That's chapter 3 and vermin, and there's creatures back there type thing, along with how to create your own creatures. And that's 277 type thing in that type of sense. If you're looking for other horse stuff and not pony type thing, you might want to try A, B, C, D, E, F, H. There's hawk, and A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, H, H, and then go down, horse. And right there type thing in that type of sense, right under combat type thing for hawks, straight into horse, and then comma, heavy horse, cross from it, heavy going east from it type thing, war horse, comma, heavy type thing in that type of sense, horse light. These are the base things that are not zero on a number line, and then you add your other bonuses to it type thing in that type of sense. So anyway, that's interesting type thing. What were we looking for? Oh, goblins. And that's A, B, C, D, E, F, F, frostworm, and then ghost, and then giant, and in that type of thing, Githari, and goblin. And that's armor class, goblin, small, hit dice, initiative, speed, and then armor class 15 type thing. So every time we get a 15 either through modifier or through something else, we have a hit. So in that type of thing, we've got 2 more rounds to go type thing, and then we're arrowed out. And then we'll take it. And that's 10 and 17 type thing in that type of sense. That's 10 and 17, which is 13 and 20 type thing in that type of sense. And from there type thing, I should do another graph on it. We'll see how far I get. And that's 19 and 14 type thing in that type of sense. 19 and 14, 22 and 17. So a fair amount of hits type thing in that type of sense. Some saved by that +3 modifier. All those need D8s and other workouts type thing in that type of sense to do their damage type thing. Okay, now dimmings thing type thing is not something that you normally see a lot type thing in that type of sense. There's an upper and control limit and lower control limit type thing in that type of sense. If you turn them on their side type thing and you put a hump through them type thing here, there's the lower tail and then there's the higher tail type thing, and that means. So in that type of thing, dimming actually has a lot of relation to other things that you might see. This here is this control chart type thing in that type of sense, and there's a Dow Jones middle in that type thing. And we're going to see what we get first off of the bat. I was going to do the natural type thing and do natural versus the modified, but now I think I'm just going to do the modified for right now. So the upper control limit is 20 plus, type 20 or 20 plus, and the lower one is 1, type thing in that type of sense. So we had a 20, and then we had an 18, then we had a 13, and then we had an 8, and then we had a 16, a 16, a 12, whoop, wait, that's above the line, a 12, a 14, that should have been higher, and a 20, and a 1, and a 16, and a 19, and a 9, and a 20, and a 14. I'm using 10 as the median there, and a 9, and a 13, and I shouldn't use the 15 as a median. And so I think I will, taking that type of sense. Let's go ahead and leave this one here for right now. And that's, 13, 20, and 22, and 17. Okay, that was 10, that's half of 20, taking in that type of sense. But 15 is the armor class of the goblin type thing. And so that's here. I kind of missed a couple there. I think those two 16s need to be there. So now we draw a line through the dots type thing here in that type of sense. And, well, that's not entirely accurate type thing in that type of thing here. And that's here, that's here. Okay, that's here, that's here, that's here, and that's here. So now in that type of thing, we have created our Dow Jones market of that type thing in that type of sense. Now in that type of thing, we need some bin width type thing in that type of sense. We've got, let's go with 20 sides, and we're going to divide by 5 bins. So that's, or 5 width, 4 width. 4 width type thing in that type of sense. We need 5 bins to represent that. So 1 through 4, 5 through 8, and then 9 through 12, 13 through 16, and 17, 18, 19, and 20. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and so that's here, that's here. Now that type of thing, that's 20 and 18 type thing, and 20 plus. So, and that's 20 plus, 21, 22 type things. That's 20. So we got 1 there. We got 18. That's 1 again. That's 20. That's in there. Yep, that was 20. And we had an 8. And we had a 16. 16 and 16. And we had a 12. And we had a 14. And we had a 20. Is that right? 20 and a 1. And then we had a 16 and 19. 16 and 19. I'm doing it with modifier type thing. And 9. And that's a 20. And now 14 and 9. And in that type of thing, that's 13. And that is 20. And a 22. And 17. Now we draw a line through here, through here, through here to the top of those bins, and there's a normal curve type thing in that type of sense. And if you turn that on its side type thing, and you need to turn it this way, here, that right there, that 20 plus is UCL, upper control limit, and the 1 is a LCL type thing in that type of sense. Yeah. Exactly like the Dow Jones that we had created. Yeah. So in that type of thing, slightly type thing, that's a central tendency type thing in that type of sense. So in that I could do with an average type thing in that type of sense, which is 17, 18, 19, and 20 type thing in that type of sense. 17, 20, what is that? That's 17 plus 20 type thing. That's 37 divided by 2. That's 18 and a half type thing in that type of sense. Minus 20 sides type thing. A 20 side die is going to have a, God, what's a percentile type thing? What is X equal to when you take 70% of it type thing in that type of sense? And that's X over 0.7 is equal to 20 type thing. Nope, X over 20 is equal to 0.70. 70 is divided by a century type thing. That's 100 type thing in that type of sense, or 70 divided by 100. And if you haven't seen that type thing, then that is the craziest thing to listen to people mnemonically. That's 0.7. And then X is going to equal 0.7 times 20 type thing in that type of sense, times 20, and that's 14. So on there type thing, that is a 70 percentile type thing off of a D20 is 14. So now an A is equal to 90%, and a B is equal to 80%, and a C is equal to 70% type thing in that type of sense. And that is what we took the percentage of a 20 type thing, and it was 14. So now in that type of thing, I think that's 18.5 minus 14 type thing in that type of sense, divided by a standard deviation, a sigma type thing, is here in that type of thing. If you add two of them type thing, that's here, it's 2 sigma, and on type thing in that type of sense. As you pick up more of the tails, that's 3 sigma, and then 4 sigma. Some of you have probably seen that before. Yeah. So in that type of thing, in that type of sense, that's a sigma. Sigma is at 0.68 or 68%. So I'm going to use a 0.68 underneath that type thing in that type of sense. We go to statistics, and we're going to try to find a z-score for it type thing. Yeah. And that's exciting. Yeah. Now it's a pretty good range. We had a pretty good day today. Yeah. So now out of that, I think we had like 13 or so hits. Yeah. Let's see here. That's a hit. That's 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, 8, and 9, 10, 11, 12 hits. So we were 12 out of 20 successfully hitting type thing. So that's 12 out of 20 type thing in that type of sense. And that's going to be interesting. Yeah. Okay, so now in that's page 250 out of Bowerman's book here. And he's the first name on it, but there's other people on it type thing in that type of sense. That's 250. And that's a z-score type thing, and that means I think I'm in the right area. And yep, there's z x minus mu type thing in that type of sense divided by the sigma. I guess I could use 70% type thing since I was using 70% to begin with. So that's 0.68 is the standard sigma though type thing for the first sigma, and I had an 18.5 average, I guess, minus 14 expected mean or mu type thing, which is really like 12, and then that's going to equal z. So that's 18.5 minus 14, which is 4.5 divided by 0.68 type thing in that type of sense, which is like 6.61 type thing in that type of sense. Not sure if we're going to have that. Z-score of 3.9 is 99997 type thing in that type of sense at 3.99. That's a little bit skewed type thing in that type of sense. Let's see, that's minus 4. It's my average different type thing. I'm gonna have to average those numbers type thing in that type of sense. So that's why I was like, eh. The high was really like 18 and the low was like 1. So it's like, man, we had 2 of them type thing in that type of sense. We really had like more of 13, 14, 14 and a half, and 18 and a half. Let's see, it's 14 and a half plus 18 and a half type thing in that type of sense. Really trying to find that midpoint of that bell curve. 16 and a half type thing, that kind of lures that. 16 and a half minus 14 divided by 0.68, and then that's 2 and a half. 2 and a half divided by 0.68 type thing, and that's 3.676. A z-score of 3.6, and then 367 type thing along that line is still pretty good. So what that's saying is, with that z-score is a 9 out of 10. We had a 9 in 10 chance of coming up with a hit type thing within the rounds that we were shooting type thing in that type of sense. And I think that's right. Not exactly sure on that. And that's a z-score. Z of negative 0.257 is 0.0051. Probability says that if the computer automaker's claim is valid, then only 51 in 10,000 cars would obtain the mileage type thing. So you're converting the 0.51 to 51. It's 00 point type thing. You're going to make that a 1 over type thing. So that's 51 over 1, 2, 3, and that's 10 to the 3, 10 to the 4. So that's 4 zeros, so it's 10,000 type thing. So a 51 in 10,000 chance, but ours wasn't like that. Our z-score came up with a 9 over 10. So they're like in 10 shots type thing. You should definitely have a hit type thing, and it should be gross. And it was. And so we came up with gross compatibility type thing in that type of sense. We weren't really 9 out of 10. We were 12 out of 20 type thing in that type of sense. So dividing top by 2 type thing in that type of sense, and that's 6. Dividing the bottom by 2 is 10. Actually, I could have gone by 4. That's 3 out of 5 type thing in that type of sense. And that's 3 over 5 type thing. And that's 3 divided by 5 equals 0.6. So 60% type thing in that type of sense. I should probably take that times a D20 type thing. That's D20 times 0.6. And that's, oh no, that can't be right. 20 times 0.6, and that's equal to 12. So that was a 12. It's 12 minus 14. Oh man, that's 20 times 0.6, and that's 12. It's 12 minus 14 divided by 0.68, so that's 12 minus 14 is minus 2 divided by 0.0. Nope, that's minus 2. 2 divided by 0.68 type thing in that type of sense, and that's 2.94. And so a negative 0.294, and that's negative z, that's 29. 29 is the first digit, and 4, so that's 2.9, that's the first digit. You're going to add 0.04 to it, taking that type of sense. So you're going to make it equal to the 4 in the 2.9 thing, and I'm not sure if that's right. So that's 0.016 type thing, and that's 16 and 10,000 type thing in that type of sense. So that is probably wrong. I think the first one was right, type thing in that type of sense. So it wasn't 9 out of 10, type thing in that type of sense. 9 out of 10 is 9 divided by 10. It's equal to 0.9 times 100 type thing, and that's 90%. And the way we had it was 3 over 5 type thing, and that's 0.6 times 100, and that's a 60% hit ratio type thing, and that means... So a little bit of fallout type thing in that type of sense. 12 and 20 type thing. 12 can be divided by 4. So 12 divided by 4, that's equal to 3. And then 20 divided by 4 type thing, and that's equal to 5. So 3/5 type thing, simplified type thing in that type of sense. And then 3 divided by 5, that's equal to 0.6 times 100 type thing in that type of sense. And that's 60. 60 in the percentile right after it. So 60%. So we had a 60% hit ratio type thing through 20 arrows. And a lot of that was probably helped by that modifier, that +3 modifier type thing in that type of sense. And that was with 20 arrows and True Strike and a simplified, just spending 5 points in that type thing. Now there's probably other things in your character that you would have to babysit type thing in that type of sense, like intelligence, wisdom, or charisma, the ability to listen or spot, and things of that nature type thing. So, but even with going with the +3 type thing in that type of sense, you're pretty set. So that's pretty good to know type thing in that type of sense. And that's a control chart, that's a bell curve with it type thing, and that's pretty awesome. And from that type thing in that type of sense, then your feats type thing in that type of sense, if you're a fighter, that's 2 plus 10 intelligence, intelligence 10, and then 0 modifier, so 0, 2 times 0 times 4 is 8 ranks. 4 ranks type thing, and 4 ranks in that, that's 8 total ranks type thing. And you have to fill in what things that you want to have your ranks in type thing. Ride, I think fighter actually has ride on them type thing in that type of sense. They're not quite knights, but they're expected to grab their own stuff. So in that type of thing, that's fighter, that's swim and ride and jump and in handle animal type thing. I'm gonna go with climb and craft bow making type thing in that type of sense, and climb type thing in that type of sense with 4 and 4. Actually, I might do like 2 here type thing in that type of sense, or 3s or something like that. That's 2 and then 2 type thing in that type of sense. That's 4. Then 2 and 2 for handle animal and ride type thing in that type of sense. 2 plus 2, that's 4. 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2, that's 8 type thing. That's 8 ranks. And in that, that's again 2 plus 0 times 4 at first type thing in that type of sense. 2 plus 0, so 0, that's 2 plus 0 is equal to 2 times 4 type thing, and that's equal to 8. And then 2 times 4 of them type thing in that type of sense is also 8 type thing in that type of thing. So 2 ranks per skill times 4 skills type thing in that type of sense. Skills cross out, it's 2 times 4 type thing, and you have 8, 2 ranks on that, above that, 2 ranks per skill, times 4 skills, skills cross out type thing in that type of sense, you have 8 ranks. Yeah. So that's good stuff type thing in that type of sense. So now, climb can be used for combat, so is the handle animal and ride type thing, but you're not a warmonger type thing. That's not an archer feat, and that's not an archer feat. Could help you doing archery type thing in that type of sense. Could turn into more pluses type thing if you had an animal and flanking bonus or something like that. But other than that, type thing in that type of sense, it is more brochure for something else type thing. That means something not related to doing point blank or rapid shot type thing in that type of sense. So it cannot be of interest or compound interest upon your character ability. So those things can be argued for type thing in that type of sense. But now you add an archer feat type thing in that type of sense. Things that deal with archery, handle animal, technically can take in that type of sense, but really isn't. That's something else. Point blank probably is more of an archer feat type thing. Precise is more of an archer feat, and rapid shot is more of an archer feat type thing in that type of sense. Handle animal wasn't. Ride really wasn't. Climb can be type thing in that type of sense in sniping position, or it could be your physical activity type thing. And craft could be a mind releasing thing, but even though it's a bow making thing, it is, if you do so type thing in a composite bow, it will add an advantage. If it isn't type thing, then you just make lovely bows. And it'll give you a third attack type thing in that type of sense. Won't grant that type thing in that type of thing. It's just filler. Okay, so now you've got filler actions type thing on your character type thing, and archer actions type thing in that type of sense. And you've got your hit points type thing in that type of sense, and fighters or D10 type thing. Back over to class skills type thing, and above it, that's D10. And back over to page 23, there's a backpack type thing going diagonally down from the strap type thing. For example, Vandania gets a D8 hit die because she is a druid. She's a druid. She is apostrophe. At first level, she gets 8. So she doesn't roll out of the D type thing. You just cross out the D type thing, and you just make it 8. So it's D, and then it just that's 8. And the same thing for the fighter type thing. They cross it out, and they're 10. Just like that. Unless we buy in Constitution at 15 remaining. Things of that nature type thing in that type of sense. But you'll eventually get that type thing, and you'll be able to break up your character sheet and see its segmentation type thing like a Picasso, and then put it together into a brilliant illuminated face like Rembrandt. So that's your abilities type thing in that type of sense. That's on a character sheet. That's your feats. That's on a character sheet. You can call those the same section type thing on page 318 in the player's book. As your special abilities type thing in that type of sense. Could be related. Could be filler. Could not. There's your languages type thing. You can spend 2 points on those type thing in that type of sense. In that type of thing, which says that in page and the skills, I think, in that type of thing, in that type of sense. And that could be something type thing in that type of sense. You could take a language versus somebody you want to hunt, or in that type of sense, you're just a linguist type thing in that type of sense, because you just didn't want to be an archer, or something in that nature type thing in that type of sense. You had some other type of backstory, no one wanted to listen to it, and they wouldn't look at you, and etc. So in that type of thing, if you go to, which is a character type thing, you created something that was a character. You go to that type thing in that type of sense. That's page 82 in the player's handbook. That's sleight of hand. That's speak languages type thing. And I think it might say that type thing. You start first level knowing 1 or 2 languages based on your race, plus an additional number of languages equal to your starting intelligence bonus. So not 14. If you had a 14, you have a 2 modifier type thing. So 14 and then 2 bonus languages type thing in that type of sense. And then you speak common plus orc and goblin or orc and giant or something like that in that type of sense. Whichever one is not part of the same cultural race type thing. There's a language list type thing, Abyssal and Aquan. Perfect. So in that type of thing, do not make speech checks. You can purchase language just like any other skill, but instead of buying a rank in it, you choose a new language that you can speak. Not sure, a literate character, anyone but a barbarian is not. Skill points and become literate, can read and write any language it speaks. Each language type thing in that type of sense. Pretty sure it should say these are 2 points apiece type thing in that type of sense. So if you have 8 ranks, then you could skip over that type thing and speak 4 languages type thing in that type of sense as a fighter type thing. Since you don't have an intelligence modifier, that's 0, so then that's right, common before the 0. So you speak common and nothing else. And it's just a little trick of the mind type thing in that type of sense. And then from there type thing, it's not trying to set a post. It's not a few good men type thing. And Jack Nicholson's character, it's just straightforward. It should say that type thing. If you look at intelligence modifier and your character does the exact same thing. Page 9. Intelligence determines how you apply your character's modifier to the number of languages your character knows at the start of the game. These types of things here would have helped type thing to have pointed out or italicized, bolded, probably bolded, or pulled together an example plot there type thing, dialogue box type thing in that type of sense with writing on it type thing in that type of thing, and you know a column thing there, and then here type thing, and then there, and it's column A and column B type thing, column and column, but you know those are difficult things. Let's see here from that type thing. That's a character. That's your filler and archer type thing in that type of sense. Equipment. That's another part of your character type thing. And if you turn back to page 318, doing that from memory is troublesome. That's other possessions and money. And that's your attack. Your longbow would go in the attack part type thing in that type of sense. Attack bonus would be +3 and damage a d8 +1 type thing in that type of sense. Damage I didn't do. We had 12 hits. One of them was confirmed critical. So in that type of thing here, that one of them was a confirmed critical, so that was 3d8 +3. So that's a d8 +1 times 3, the whole thing, like an algebraic equation, 3d8 +3, taking that type of sense. And we had 11 shots that were just normal, so 11 times d8 +1, taking that type of sense, and that's 11d8 +11, taking that type of sense. So we have 14d8 +14. d8 is like an 8-sided die type thing in that type of sense. Could be an 8, could be a 1 type thing, 14 times over. A result of 8, a roll of 8, 8 result for the roll, and then times 14 rolls type thing. Rolls cancel out type thing. 14 times 8 result type thing in that type of sense. So now that D, that was a D8 that went to an X8 type thing in that type of sense, like multiplication. So that's 14 x8 type thing in that type of sense, and that's 112, and that's 112, box A, and then box B type thing in that type of sense is the 14 carryover type thing, and that's +14 type thing in that type of sense, and that's 126. And so in that type of thing, and that's your result. Sometimes the people kid me and call it an ABR type thing in that type of sense. So that's a A box, B box, and the R result box type thing in that type of sense, and that's R. Underscore ESULT type thing result, and then put a box around the R, and then that was ABR, some pirate joke type thing, pirates and ninjas, and in that type of thing. So that was A was 112, and that's 14. That was from the 14d8 type thing in that type of sense, and that's when you're +14. That's 112 +14. That's 126 result. And that is complicated. For those of you who didn't buy that or grok with it, you can hit the rewind button on your YouTube if you would, and subscribe, or at the bottom type thing, and also rewind to find that map type thing and do it as a Madden clicker thing. But if you don't want to type thing, then you don't have to. Okay, anything else? I think that's it type thing in that type of sense. That was 12 successful shots. We saw the dimming of it type thing in a dimming stage block 9. See the statistics and how that did so. Now, if you took a 16, you wouldn't have to worry about it, and then that was your highest stat type thing in that type of sense. So from that type thing, 16 type thing in that type of sense for 5 points, and wisdom for 14 wisdom type thing with a +2 modifier. That's got a +3 modifier, so that's 3 over 2. And then that type of thing, maybe a 12 or 14 strength for 5 type thing in that type of sense, and that's a +2 type thing in that type of sense. So a +2 strength modifier, and dexterity type thing was +3, and a wisdom of +2 for listen and spot checks type thing in that type of sense. Although it didn't really take one, I think the 2 would still go unmodified with the D20 roll on there. And constitution type thing would be a 14 type thing in that type of sense, and -2 for 12 because L is constitution, so it's still con of +1 modifier type thing in that type of sense. And that was 5, 5, 5, and 5 type thing, and that's 20. The dexterity of the elf type thing is +2 type thing, 4 type thing in that type of sense, for 14 +2 type thing for 5 points type thing in that type of sense. On page
16, and elf racial traits, +2 dexterity, and 14, that's 16. Could have paid more type thing, but it probably wouldn't affect the other stats on the back end type thing. They wouldn't have had as high as modifiers with them type thing in that type of sense. Again, a little bit more practice type thing, but definitely not the feel of it being right type thing in that type of sense. That was a 16 type thing, 16 to 17, and your modifier is farther east on that, and that's a +3 type thing. A little bit more practice type thing in that type of sense, and maybe some more continuity type thing. So we are approaching that type thing in that type of sense. That is really cool. I have not put that in a character sheet type thing in that type of sense. That's dexterity type thing, and that's 16, but a dexterity 16 has a +3 modifier in it. Did strength type thing, that's a 14, that's +2. That was 5 type thing, and that had a +2 elf thing type thing, that's 14 +2, which is 16 type thing in that type of sense. 5 points again for this one is a 14, but there's no modification coming onto that, so it stays a 14. And in that type of thing, that's con, and that was a 5 points for a 14 type thing in that type of sense. And that was -2 type thing because elves have a weaker constitution. That's 12, and that's a +1 modifier type thing on page 8. 12 to 13, +1 modifier, so 11 hit points at the beginning of that type thing. And still kept your dexterity type thing in that type of sense. Dexterity, the lowest score out of that type thing, 16, 14, and 12 type thing in that type of sense is the highest score. And intelligence type thing is going to be 10, no points spent in it. Wisdom was a 14 type thing in that type of sense, and that's +2 type thing. And charisma type thing is going to be a 10 for +0. That's 5, 5, 5, and 5 type thing in that type of sense. That's 5 times 4 type thing in that type of thing, and that's 20. Thanks again for listening type thing. I'll do this some other time type thing in that type of sense, and I'll put this together because of its complexity type thing. But I'm pretty sure if you see the video type thing, you have an idea of what's going on. Thanks again. Without doing the number, without framing it and using the dimming sage block or the 1d8+1 method or the method of tiger owl type thing, you can have maybe 5 things go into a 2x plus y equation type thing in that type of sense. It was really meant to be 2, but that's complicated again. If you just, we'll do a follow through on it type thing in that type of sense, the mechanics of abilities type thing. And I thank you for listening, and have a great one. Happy New Year. This has been Chad Brown, Tiger Owl Second City, a second sight look at it type thing in that type of sense. Dimming Sage Block 9, dimming statistics, and 1d8+1, rolling a d8+1, just like a cleric or other damage type thing. And I really appreciate listening.